Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Subscribe to the channel to explore lessons on leadership, responsibility, and change in both sports and life.
The England team is undergoing a major clean-up after a disappointing performance against Ireland. This has sparked a flurry of mixed emotions within me, from surprise and skepticism to understanding and hope. The temperature is rising, and the daffodils are blooming, symbols of spring and rebirth, which seem to reflect the desire to rejuvenate a team that has lost its direction. But is this massive change a sign of strategic vision, or just a knee-jerk reaction to pressure? I don't see this as a critique from the outside. Personally, I view it as a vivid lesson in leadership, trust, and responsibility. When Steve Borthwick decided to make 12 changes, including 3 positional adjustments, he sent a very clear message: no one is guaranteed a place if the team performs below expectations. The extent of this change was so significant that many drew parallels to the lottery period of the 1960s-70s, when the England team was seen as inconsistent in its personnel choices. That comparison might seem harsh, but it highlights how shocking this decision is.
The first thing I sense is impatience. A coach who had once said he wanted to be known as someone who always supported his players is now implementing an almost total overhaul. This raises the question: where is the line between support and indulgence? And when does a leader have to accept that too much patience can turn into enabling? I try to put myself in Borthwick's shoes. Under immense pressure from the media, fans, and the legacy of winning traditions, he couldn't let the team continue to perform as lackluster as they had against Ireland or Scotland. In elite sports, 3 subpar games can quickly erode confidence. And when trust is eroded, decisive action is often seen as the strongest remedy. I also wonder, does too much change really equate to progress? When a pair of wings, a midfield duo, and a 3-man defense who have never played together at international level are thrown together in a crucial match, is that courage or recklessness? In top-level sport, synergy doesn't just come from tactics, it comes from intuition built over time. Fluid coordination is the result of hundreds of hours of training and playing together. Breaking those links might bring in fresh energy, but it also carries significant risks.
I'm particularly focused on some of the personnel choices. When Alex Mitchell was injured and Ben Spencer was given the opportunity to start at scrum half, it opened the possibility that England might lean more towards a kicking game. If that's the case, the decision not to use George Ford, one of the best fly halves at controlling and kicking for points, raises questions. Tactical logic doesn't always lie with individual players but with the overall balance. And I've learned that a decision that seems right in isolation may not always fit within the system. I also can't help but recall the precedent set in 2007, when Brian Ashton made 8 changes after a heavy loss to Ireland at Croke Park. That time, the England team responded strongly, defeating France at Twickenham. History shows that overhauls can yield immediate results. But history never repeats itself exactly. Right now, the opponents are Italy, a team that has never beaten England in 32 encounters over 35 years.
This statistic creates a psychological paradox. On the one hand, it brings confidence. On the other, it creates the risk of complacency. I realize that in both sports and life, the easier challenges on paper are often the ones that cause us to relax the most. Then there's Thomas Tuchel's appearance at a training session in Bagshot. Although he coaches the football team, the lesson about the pressure of national expectations is similar. When representing a country, you're not just playing for yourself or a club, but for the pride of millions. And when you perform below expectations, hundreds of thousands of experts will demand answers. I don't see that as a negative. I believe it's a privilege of top teams. They're expected to perform because they've already proven their worth. However, this pressure also raises questions about fairness. If the patched-together team fails, who is responsible? The players, for not meeting the standards, or the coach, for creating an unstable structure? I believe true leadership is about being willing to take on the biggest share of the responsibility when things go wrong.
Players who were once overlooked, who sat on the bench in frustration, now have a chance to prove their worth. Seb Atkinson, a product of Luctonians RFC, Worcester Warriors, and Gloucester, is a prime example. Injuries once set him back, but the door was never permanently closed. This reminds me that in life, opportunities might come late, but if we're well prepared, we won't miss the second chance. I've also learned that change only matters when it's accompanied by new energy. No matter how sound the tactics, if the team doesn't show resolve, fighting spirit, and a stronger desire than in the 2 previous games, all personnel adjustments will be meaningless. A left-footed shot or a player's great catching ability won't save a team that lacks fire. The biggest lesson I've taken for myself is about balancing persistence with flexibility. If I'm too rigid, I might miss the moment when change is needed. But if I change too hastily, I could destroy the foundation I've carefully built.
Leadership, whether in sports or life, is the art of adjusting the pace, knowing when to speed up and when to hold steady. I think we also need to learn to support maturely. Criticism is necessary, but it should come with understanding. A national team is not a video game that can be reset at will. Every decision is linked to real people, real emotions, and real careers. I don't know what the result of the upcoming match will be. But what matters more than the outcome is how the England team demonstrates their character. They may win and still leave doubts, or they may face challenges, but show clear signs of unity and progress. I realize that spring isn't just the blossoming of daffodils outside, but also the season of new beginnings in the mindset of each individual. If the England team truly sees this as an opportunity for rebirth, this cleanup could become a positive turning point. If it's merely the fleeting wind of haste, history will remind us of the value of stability. Personally, I choose to view the situation with cautious hope. Because in sports, as in life, it's often the most chaotic moments that mark the beginning of a new order. As long as we have the courage to learn, the humility to listen, and the determination to not lose our true identity.
Goodbye, and I hope this change will be a turning point that brings new energy to the England team, with determination and strong resilience.